The gavel's echo thundered through the marble courtroom, silencing even the coughs and shifting chairs. My palms were already sweating through the cheap cotton of my only halfway decent suit. I could feel Amber's eyes burning holes in me from across the room. Her posture relaxed, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. She was dressed like someone who knew she'd already won. "Mr. Carter, please stand," the judge intoned. I got to my feet, heart slamming against my ribs. The rows behind me were filled with strangers, some just waiting for their turn, others looking for drama. To my right, Amber's lawyer, Mr. Franklin, began his list, reading from a thick, tabbed folder. His voice was crisp, rehearsed, almost gleeful. The $5 million property on Oak Ridge Lane, the Tesla Model S and Mercedes GLE, the stocks, bonds, vacation accounts, and all joint savings. Primary custody of Madison and Tyler Carter, all to Mrs. Amber Carter. Every word felt like a punch. My world was being auctioned off, item by item, as if I'd been nothing more than a temporary guest in my own life. I tried not to look at Amber. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction. Judge Price barely looked up from her paperwork. "Is there any objection?" she asked, though it sounded more like a formality than an honest question. Mr. Franklin shook his head. Amber kept her eyes fixed on the gold band she'd already slipped off her finger. I tried to swallow, but my throat was raw and dry. When I finally spoke, my voice was barely above a whisper. "No objection, Your Honor." There it was. The final nail. I could hear people shifting, whispering, probably guessing how much I'd messed up to end up here. Maybe they'd heard Amber's stories about how I was never around, how I chose work over family, or maybe even worse. The truth was, I'd been trying to keep everything together for years, patching over cracks that just kept spreading. The judge's pen scratched across the paper. Custody of the children, the family residence, all marital assets and financial holdings are hereby awarded to Mrs. Carter. The air went out of my lungs. That was it. Game over. Amber didn't look at me, not even for a second. She just nodded, a tiny, satisfied smile pulling at the corners of her mouth. She didn't gloat. She didn't have to. The win was obvious and everyone could see it. As I sat down, the room blurred. I heard a few stray snickers from the back, maybe Amber's friends, maybe just strangers who liked the drama. My fingers dug into my knees. I wanted to shout that this wasn't fair, that there was more to the story, but I knew how it would sound. Like another bitter man who lost. Mr. Franklin handed Amber a thick envelope. She took it gracefully, as if she'd just been given an award. My attorney, a tired man named Rogers, patted my shoulder but didn't say a word. What could he say? I'd lost. Completely. Judge Price glanced up, her eyes cold and matter-of-fact. "Mr. Carter, you'll have supervised visitation twice a month, pending further review." Twice a month. My children, my entire world, reduced to 2 supervised afternoons every 30 days. My chest ached. I remembered walking Madison to the bus, tying Tyler's shoes, late-night runs for ice cream after Amber's fights. All gone now. In their place, silence and court orders. Amber collected her things, gave me one last look, no anger, just a cold, polite distance. Like I was someone she'd never really known. Mr. Franklin led her out. I stayed glued to my seat, afraid that if I stood up my knees would buckle. People filed out, their eyes flicking over me, some with pity, some with curiosity. The courtroom emptied until it was just me and my lawyer. "You all right, Logan?" Rogers finally asked, but his voice was distant, already thinking about his next case. "Yeah," I lied. "I'm fine." But I wasn't, not even close. In a single morning, my life had been stripped bare, and the world I'd built, for better or worse, belonged to someone else. I walked out into the hallway, the sound of Amber's heels echoing ahead of me, and felt the weight of everything I'd lost pressed down on my shoulders. I had nothing left but a name, a suit, and a memory of a family that no longer belonged to me. But what I didn't know was, the day wasn't over yet. And sometimes rock bottom is just the start of a new story. Outside the courthouse, the flash of cameras was brighter than the sun. Amber's lipstick left a red mark on her new boyfriend's cheek as the crowd cheered. The heavy oak doors hadn't even finished swinging shut behind me when the circus began. Reporters, friends, and Amber's extended family all waiting to catch the show. Amber emerged in full control, strutting down the courthouse steps like a queen who'd just conquered her enemy. Her parents swept her into a hug, her mother dabbing away a fake tear while her father slapped her new boyfriend on the back as if he'd won something too. Cameras snapped. Someone shouted, "Over here, Amber!" She obliged, looping her arm through the boyfriend's, flashing her practiced, perfect smile. She leaned in and planted a kiss on his cheek. Bold, public, like she wanted the world, and me, to see she'd already moved on. I stayed back by the column, invisible. I could feel the sting of shame crawl up my neck. My own parents stood a few yards away, unsure, eyes darting between Amber's celebration and the concrete at their feet. Mom fiddled with her wedding ring. Dad's hands were jammed deep into his pockets. Neither of them met my eyes. I got the message. Whatever I'd done, whatever side they were on, it wasn't mine. I knelt down as Jake tugged on my sleeve. My son's small hands clung to my suit like he was afraid I'd float away. "Dad, are you coming home with us?" He whispered, hope flickering in his brown eyes. My voice caught. "Not today, buddy, but soon, I promise." He nodded, too brave for his age, but I could see confusion and hurt. Maddie, always the sensitive one, buried her face in my jacket and sobbed, little fingers gripping the fabric like a lifeline. "I want Mommy," she wailed. Amber glanced over, lips tight, then knelt beside Maddie, prying her away from me with a gentleness that felt like a performance. "Come on, sweetie. Let's get ice cream." She didn't look at me, not really. Just past me, as if I was a problem she'd already solved. Jake clung to my hand until Amber's boyfriend cleared his throat. "Let's go, buddy," he said, reaching for Jake. My son looked up at me, searching my face for something. Comfort, reassurance, hope. All I could do was squeeze his shoulder and force a smile. "It's okay, Jake, I'll see you soon. Be good for your mom." Reporters pushed in closer, their microphones hungry for drama. "Mr. Carter, do you have anything to say about the settlement? How do you feel losing everything?" Their words were sharp, meant to wound, but I shook my head, focusing only on the kids. Amber straightened, dusted off her dress, and walked over to me. Up close, her perfume was sharp and cold. She leaned in, her voice low so only I could hear. "Maybe you'll finally learn your place," she whispered, her words slicing deeper than any court order. Her boyfriend wrapped an arm around her waist. "You ready, babe?" he said, grinning at me like he'd won a prize. She smiled, bright and victorious. Always. My parents lingered, unsure whether to speak. I met my mother's eyes. She looked away, cheeks flushed. My father tried for a handshake but thought better of it, dropping his hand to his side. I nodded at them, awkward, knowing nothing I could say would fix the divide. As Amber's entourage moved toward the waiting cars, a brand new black Mercedes for her, an Uber for me, the crowd parted, leaving me standing alone on the courthouse steps. My whole life packed into a duffel bag and the echo of my daughter's sobs. I wanted to scream, to fight, to call out the unfairness, but the world didn't care about broken men in wrinkled suits. Not today. Amber's family cheered as she slid into the Mercedes, paparazzi bulbs popping, her laughter ringing out like church bells. Jake looked back at me through the tinted window, pressing his hand to the glass. Maddie's cries faded as the car pulled away, her silhouette small and distant. I shoved my hands into my pockets, the chill in the spring air biting deeper than before. I'd lost the house, the money, the kids. Even my pride had been stripped away, bit by bit, in full view of everyone who ever mattered. But as I turned to leave, Amber's words echoed in my ear, the taste of humiliation bitter in my mouth. Maybe I would learn my place. But what I didn't know was, my place in this story was about to change forever. The box slipped from my arms, bursting open on the concrete floor, and old photos, divorce papers, and my busted college football trophy spilled everywhere. All I could think was, this is what my life fits in now. My brother Miles's basement smelled like old carpet and wet laundry. The air was cold and the ceiling low enough that I had to duck under the pipes. My entire life, 40 years old, 2 kids, a career, and a marriage, reduced to 5 cardboard boxes and a duffel bag. The sagging couch in the corner was going to be my bed for the foreseeable future. The TV had a crack running through the middle, a reminder that Miles never threw anything away. He tried to make it sound better than it was. "Hey, at least you got cable and a place to crash," he said, flicking on a flickering lamp. I forced a grin. Just what I always wanted. Luxury accommodations, right? Miles laughed, but there was worry behind his smile. He was my little brother, 2 years younger, still living in the same house he'd bought after his second divorce. He tried to keep it light. "Could be worse. You could be sleeping in your car." He tossed me a bag of chips. Dinner of champions. I dropped onto the couch, the springs groaning under my weight. All around me, reminders of what I'd lost. Family photos Amber didn't want, my high school yearbook, a pair of kid-sized sneakers Jake outgrew last summer. I tried to make a joke. "You got anything stronger than chips?" Miles handed me a cheap beer. Only the best for my big brother. We sat in silence for a minute, the only sound the hum of the fridge upstairs and the occasional creak of pipes. Miles tried to cheer me up, the way he always did when things went south. "Logan, look, you'll bounce back. Amber can have the house. You're better off without her." I shook my head, staring at my hands. She didn't just take the house, Miles. She took everything. The kids, my life. My voice broke on the last word. Shame burned in my chest. I hated myself for letting it show. Miles squeezed my shoulder. "Hey, you're not done yet. You've still got your kids. You're still their dad. That matters more than a house or a fancy car." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But all I could see were the headlines, the looks from my parents, Amber's smirk as she walked away with everything I ever worked for. The world felt heavy and small down in that basement. After Miles went upstairs, I sat in the blue glow of the broken TV, replaying the court hearing in my head. The judge's gavel, Amber's lipstick, Jake's tiny hand slipping away from mine. Every memory stabbed a little deeper. I picked up a framed photo of the kids at the beach, Maddie laughing, Jake buried in sand, and felt the ache of everything I'd lost. The hours crawled by. I unpacked boxes just to keep my hands busy, finding little pieces of my old life. A crumpled drawing Maddie made for Father's Day. The watch my dad gave me when I turned 18. A stack of birthday cards with Amber's neat handwriting on the envelopes. I wondered if I'd ever get back to being the man in those memories, or if I'd just become a ghost haunting Miles's basement. Sometime after midnight, when even the traffic outside had faded, I heard a knock at the basement door. It was soft at first, then a little louder, a steady, unfamiliar rhythm that made my heart pound. I froze, beer halfway to my lips. Miles never had visitors this late. The knock came again. Shadows moved in the crack under the door, and a silhouette, tall and broad-shouldered, blocked out the hallway light. I set the bottle down, suddenly sober, and stood up. My mind raced. Amber? The cops? Another lawyer here to deliver more bad news? I hesitated, hand on the doorknob, nerves jangling. Whatever waited on the other side, it felt like the next chapter of my life was about to begin. Whether I was ready or not, I cracked the door open. A stranger stood in the shadows holding a battered briefcase in one hand. And everything I thought I knew about my divorce was about to change. The man's coat was soaked from the rain. He held out a battered briefcase and locked eyes with me. "You've been robbed of more than money, Logan. Read what's inside before it's too late." And I froze in the doorway, heart hammering as the stranger stepped out of the shadows. He was tall, maybe in his mid-50s, with streaks of gray at his temples and a jaw that hadn't seen a razor in days. Raindrops clung to his overcoat, pooling on the basement's cold tile floor. Miles stood behind me, bleary-eyed and confused. "Logan, you know this guy." I shook my head, wary. "No, who are you?" The man's voice was rough but steady. "Name's Elliot." He set the battered briefcase on top of a stack of boxes by the stairs. "I worked with your father. I owed him a favor. Now I'm here to keep a promise." My brain scrambled. Dad had been gone for almost 10 years. What kind of promise could still matter now? Elliot didn't blink. "I'm not here to hurt you, but there are things you don't know. Things Amber made sure you'd never find out. This," he tapped the briefcase, "is your real inheritance. Not the scraps they left you." Paranoia prickled up my spine. Was this some scam? Another setup to make me look like a fool? I glanced at Miles for backup, but he just shrugged and whispered, "Maybe you should open it. What's the worst that could happen?" I turned back to Elliot. "Why now? Why me?" He glanced at his watch, rain still dripping off his sleeves. Because you need the truth before you lose more than money. People are watching this divorce. People with their own stakes. Trust me, you'll want to know. Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door. But something about the way he said it, calm, certain, no hint of threat, cut through the fog of my suspicion. I picked up the briefcase. It was heavier than it looked, the leather peeling, a rusted clasp barely holding it together. Elliot stepped back, already turning toward the stairs. I can't stay. Read it tonight. And Logan? He paused in the shadows, voice low. Don't trust everything Amber says. Not even what's on paper. I wanted to chase him down, demand answers, but the door shut quietly behind him. I stood there, the briefcase sweating in my hands, and let the silence settle. Miles was the first to speak. Well, that wasn't weird at all. He tried to lighten the mood, but the tension wouldn't break. Dude, if this is drugs or blackmail, I'm not bailing you out. I forced a laugh, my fingers fumbling with the rusty clasp. If it's drugs, I'll share the profits. But inside, my stomach was twisted with anxiety. What if this was a trap? What if Amber had set me up again, ready to accuse me of some new crime? Just open it, Logan, Miles urged, a mixture of curiosity and concern in his eyes. I carried the briefcase to the wobbly coffee table and set it down. The clasp resisted, but with a sharp snap, it gave way. I braced myself for the worst. A bomb, a dead rat, an eviction notice. Instead, a faded stack of black and white photographs spilled out first, curling at the edges. I recognized my dad in one, standing beside a younger Elliot at some construction site, both laughing with their arms around each other. Underneath the photos were several legal documents, old and yellowed, stamped and notarized, property deeds, business agreements, contracts I'd never seen before. My name was on a few. Amber's signature was missing from others. Miles whistled, leaning over my shoulder. Dude, are those for real? Before I could answer, my hand brushed against something cold and metallic, a small brass key taped to the inside of the lid. Next to it, a thumb-sized USB drive with a yellow sticky note. Start here. I held them up, my mind spinning. The key was old, engraved with a tiny W. The USB felt like a detonator. What's on it? Miles asked. I swallowed. No idea. But whatever it is, Elliot wanted me to see it tonight. My fingers shook as I slotted the USB into Miles's ancient laptop. The drive hummed. A single folder titled, For Logan's Eyes Only. The screen flickered to life. Just then, thunder rattled the basement windows. The briefcase, the old photos, the legal documents, the key, and the USB all spread out in front of me. I'd come here broken and humiliated, but maybe, just maybe, this was my second chance. Inside the briefcase, old photos, legal documents, a USB drive, and a key. But I had no idea just how much my life was about to change. Sleep was out of the question. I sat hunched over Miles's rickety desk, the battered briefcase open beside me, chasing the truth while everyone else slept. The glow of the laptop burned my eyes as I scrolled through evidence of Amber's betrayal, wire transfers, signatures, and lies that went deeper than I ever imagined. The clock on the basement wall read 2:13 a.m., but my mind was locked on the files pouring across the screen. My pulse thundered as I pieced together what Elliot had delivered. Bank statements showing money moving offshore, emails between Amber and her lawyer with suspiciously edited timestamps, digital footprints so precise even a judge would have to see them. For years, I'd blamed myself for losing the mansion, the kids, my dignity. Now, every line of code, every screenshot proved what I always suspected. Amber had rewritten the story long before I stepped into that courtroom. I opened another folder, transfers. My jaw clenched as I saw a six-figure sum withdrawn from our joint account on the same day Amber claimed she was struggling to make ends meet. There was another, money funneled from an account in my name that I'd never even opened. I grabbed my phone and dialed Samantha's number, heart racing. She answered on the third ring, groggy but alert. She'd been my lifeline since my old lawyer quit. "Sam, it's Logan. I need you to see something. Now." She hesitated. "Logan, it's the middle of the night. Please, it's urgent." She arrived in sweats, hair pulled back, legal pad already in hand. I showed her the files, the statements, the notes. She studied them, her brow furrowing. "Where did you get these?" she asked, suspicion mingling with curiosity. "A man named Elliot. He said he owed my father." She nodded, scanning the printouts. "If this is real, it's damning. But the chain of custody matters. And if Amber's team finds out you got these outside discovery, they'll bury you." I swallowed. "What do I do?" She gave me a look, part warning, part encouragement. "We dig deeper. Quietly. If we can authenticate these documents and prove they weren't tampered with, we might have grounds for appeal." Miles popped his head in, holding a mug of instant coffee. "So what's next, Sherlock?" I ignored him, opening the last file on the USB. Video. Samantha leaned in, suddenly alert. "Is that surveillance footage?" I nodded. From the mansion. The video was grainy, shot from a security camera in the marble foyer. Timestamp, 2 weeks before our final court date. The footage showed Amber pacing back and forth, checking her phone every few seconds. Then, at 2:47 p.m., the front door swung open and a man in a gray suit entered. Someone I'd never seen before. They talked in hushed tones. Amber handed him a stack of documents. He nodded, then slid her a thick envelope. The conversation was tense. Amber kept glancing over her shoulder, her posture tight. After a few minutes, the man left. Amber shoved the envelope into a kitchen drawer, looked straight up at the camera, and flipped it off. Samantha inhaled sharply. That does not look good for her. I rewound the footage, watching frame by frame, searching for any clue, a name, a company logo, anything that could ID the stranger. Miles hovered over my shoulder. "Dude, you think that's her lawyer? Or something else?" Samantha's mind was racing. "If that's a bribe or some kind of deal, it's evidence of fraud." "But Logan, this video could cut both ways. If Amber finds out you have it, she'll spin it as an invasion of privacy." I slumped in the chair, exhaustion and adrenaline fighting in my veins. "What would you do?" Samantha looked me dead in the eye. "I'd get a copy to a forensic expert quietly. And Logan, don't tell anyone else. Not even your brother. We can't risk this leaking." The weight of it all crashed down. For months I'd felt powerless, erased by Amber's story. Now, for the first time, I had something real, proof, not just suspicion. But as the video looped again, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging, Logan. This is your only warning." I glanced at Samantha, fear settling in my chest. Was I in over my head? Or was this the moment I started taking my life back? The USB revealed surveillance footage from inside the mansion. Amber in a secret meeting. But I had no idea just how deep the rabbit hole went. Night pressed in, thick and silent, as I crouched behind the hedges outside what used to be my home. The mansion's windows glowed gold, but every shadow felt like a dare. Heart thumping, I slipped the spare key into the lock, praying Amber hadn't changed it. I stepped into the entryway and shut the door, holding my breath. The air inside was cold, sterile. All Mom's old pictures were gone, replaced by art that screamed money but meant nothing. My footsteps echoed on the marble floors. It felt wrong, trespassing. But tonight, I was done being the ghost in Amber's story. The living room was empty. I crossed to the staircase, moving by muscle memory, up the creaky second step, then left toward Jake's old bedroom. The house had changed, but I remembered every inch. Amber was out with her boyfriend. I checked her socials twice before coming. I had a window, but not much of one. Inside Jake's room, it was like time had frozen. Posters still lined the walls, but the bedspread was new. Some expensive brand, nothing like the superhero sheets Jake loved. I crouched by the closet, running my hands along the floorboards. Elliot's briefcase had included a code, 27 to 15. It was burned in my memory. But for what? I spotted Jake's old baseball glove on the shelf. It was battered, the laces frayed. A relic from before everything fell apart. I pulled it down, half expecting nothing. But inside, taped to the palm, was a faded, sticky note. "Trust your swing. Left, left, right." I felt a jolt. The code, the glove, were they connected? I retraced my steps to the study, where Dad used to keep a wall safe. The painting above the desk was crooked, almost as if inviting me to look closer. My hands shook as I lifted it away. There it was, the old safe keypad blinking red. I typed 2715, then followed the glove's cryptic instruction, turning the dial. Left, left, right. There was a soft click. My pulse hammered in my ears. I braced myself, opened the safe door, and stared. Stacks of cash. Bundles, all rubber-banded and crisp. I counted at least 60,000 at a glance. Beside the cash, a cheap burner phone, switched off. Underneath, a folded envelope. My name scribbled on the front in my father's handwriting. I slid it open with trembling fingers. The note inside was short. For the truth, use wisely. Not everyone is who they claim to be. Trust no one until you see the whole picture. Dad, a million thoughts swirled. Was this hush money? Insurance? Had Dad always suspected Amber would go this far? I powered on the burner phone. No password. The screen lit up with a string of unread messages and several audio files. I scrolled through, each message time-stamped from months before the divorce, some labeled simply, "Listen." The house suddenly felt smaller, airless. I looked back at the stacks of cash, the glove, the safe. Everything was a clue, a warning, a cry for help from the past. A noise startled me, a creak from the hallway. I froze, clutching the phone. Was Amber home early? Was someone else in the house? My mind raced with options. Run, hide, confront. But I'd come too far to turn back. I stuffed the cash, phone, and note into my backpack, wiped the safe clean of prints, and replaced the painting. My heart wouldn't slow as I retraced my steps, every muscle on edge, listening for footsteps. Downstairs, I paused by the front door, every sense buzzing. No voices, no sign of life. I slipped back out into the night, locking the door behind me. As I jogged to my car, the gravity of what I'd found hit me. Amber's betrayal was just the beginning. My father's secret stash, the glove and the code, and now a burner phone full of who knows what. I had proof. I had cash. But above all, I had a choice. Keep hiding or fight for the truth no matter the cost. The safe opened to stacks of cash, a burner phone, and a note. For the truth, use wisely. But I had no idea who I could really trust. The burner phone buzzed to life in my palm, the glow of the screen the only light in Miles's cluttered basement. The first text I read was from Amber. It nearly stopped my heart. Tonight, after court. Make sure he's out of the house. He'll get nothing, I promise. Every word felt like a punch to the gut. My wife, my partner for 12 years, was plotting my destruction with a man I'd never even met. I sat hunched over the battered fold-out table. The safe's contents spread in front of me. Cash, the glove, Dad's warning note, and that cheap phone that was suddenly worth more than gold. Miles hovered nearby, eyes wide. Samantha, my lawyer, listened over speaker, her voice sharp. "Logan, do not respond to anything on that device," she ordered. "Screenshot everything. This is evidence, more valuable than any check or confession." My thumb scrolled. More texts? Amber. He'll break. He always does. Her boyfriend, Dylan. Just need him to snap. Judge won't question a crazy ex. Amber again. Once the house is mine, I'll pay you back. He can rot. The words blurred, mixing with memory. Amber's smirk in court. Her parents' proud faces. The way my own kids were wrenched from my arms. All the humiliation and shame, now explained in brutal clarity. Samantha's plan unfolded fast. We get these messages certified. I'll file for an emergency hearing. And Logan? This isn't just about the money anymore. We have enough to challenge custody. Amber lied, manipulated the court, maybe even broke the law. But you have to stay calm. We do this right or we lose it all. Calm. The word barely meant anything. Anger roared in my veins. Rage for every lie, every stolen day with Jake and Maddie, every night spent on a stranger's couch. But beneath it was a deeper fear. What if this blew up in my face? What if Amber had more secrets, more traps waiting? I glanced at Miles. He was never the responsible brother, but tonight he was the anchor I needed. He handed me a mug of coffee, the steam rising between us. "You okay, man?" he asked softly. "Not really," I muttered, voice tight. I thought I knew her, Miles. God, I was so stupid. He shook his head. You weren't stupid. She just knew how to play the game. We worked late, backing up the phone, organizing files for Samantha. The basement felt smaller every hour, my shame and anger squeezing the air from the room. The text chains were proof, cold, damning proof, but they didn't make me feel victorious. They just made me feel hollow. I found one more file on the phone, a voice memo labeled Plan B. Hands shaking, I pressed play. Amber's voice crackled through the cheap speaker. If Logan finds out, we blame his drinking. Say he threatened me, call the cops. I want him nowhere near the kids. You understand? Miles swore under his breath. I closed my eyes, bile rising in my throat. Every suspicion, every gut instinct I'd ignored confirmed in one vile recording. Samantha's voice came through the phone, hard and certain. Logan, we strike first thing tomorrow. No contact with Amber, I'll prep the judge. This changes everything. I tried to breathe, to process, but my world was spinning. I was terrified. I was furious. But most of all, I was ready. Ready to fight. Ready to reclaim my life, my kids, my dignity. Miles packed up the evidence, his face serious. Don't go anywhere alone, he warned. You think Amber's done? She's just getting started. And Logan. He put a hand on my shoulder, his voice grave. You're not the only one searching for the truth. So, be careful. Those words echoed in the silence, chilling me to the bone. If Amber were spinning a web, how many others were already caught, and what would she do to keep her secrets buried? I was wiping sweat from my brow behind the bar when Dylan slid onto a stool, his eyes cold, his smile thinner than a razor's edge. He leaned in, voice low enough that only I could hear. If you care about your kids, Logan, you'll forget everything you think you know about Amber. Drop it, or I'll bury you myself. The rest of the lunch crowd melted away. Suddenly it was just me, him, and the clink of ice in a glass. Dylan looked every inch the threat. Broad shoulders under a black leather jacket, knuckles red and swollen. He didn't order anything. He just stared, eyes flicking from the door to my face and back again. I know you want to play hero, he said. But heroes lose. You poke around in Amber's life, you'll end up with even less than you've got now. And trust me, you can lose more than money, Logan. Don't test me. My hands curled under the bar, gripping the wood. For a split second, I saw myself lunging at him, smashing a bottle across his face. But the image vanished, replaced by Jake and Maddie's faces, wide-eyed and scared. If I got arrested, Amber would win. If I broke, they'd be lost to me forever. I forced myself to breathe, to keep my voice steady. You're threatening a father in his workplace, I said quietly. That's a mistake. Dylan smirked. No, Logan. Going after Amber, that's the mistake. This is a warning. You're not in her league. Walk away, and no one gets hurt. Simple. He slid a 20 across the bar, mock payment for a drink he never ordered. Then he stood, straightened his jacket, and left. I watched him disappear into the noon sunlight, every nerve in my body screaming. I spent the rest of my shift on edge, scanning every face that came through the door. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Samantha texted, "Judge reviewing files. Stay low, stay clean. I'll update soon." But I couldn't rest. Dylan's words rattled around my skull. I wanted to fight, to scream, to march straight to Amber and demand answers. But I knew I was walking a razor's edge. If I pushed too hard, if I lost control, I could lose my kids for good. After closing, I drove back to Miles' basement, knuckles white on the steering wheel. Miles watched me pace the room, listened as I replayed Dylan's threats. He's desperate, Miles said. Desperate men make mistakes. Just don't let him bait you. I sat down, exhaustion creeping in. What am I supposed to do, Miles? Just let them win? Let them take everything? He shook his head. No, but you have to play smart. You've got Samantha, you've got the evidence. Let them hang themselves. Just before midnight, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Samantha. It was an unknown number. Tomorrow. Courthouse steps. Noon. There was no name, but I knew the code. Elliot. I stared at the message, heart pounding. Elliot, the stranger with the briefcase, the man who seemed to know every move before I made it. Why now? Why the courthouse? I couldn't sleep that night. I lay on the lumpy basement couch staring at the ceiling, mind whirling with possibilities. What did Elliot know? Was he on my side or setting another trap? And if I met him, would Amber or Dylan be waiting to finish what they started? One thing was certain, I'd reached the point of no return. Tomorrow, at noon, on the courthouse steps, I'd either find the answers I needed, or lose everything for good. I stood on the courthouse steps at noon, sweat trickling down my spine despite the crisp fall air. Elliot emerged from a line of parked cars, trench coat flapping, a brown envelope clutched in his hand. He pressed it into my palm before I could say a word. For Judge Price only. Don't let anyone else touch it. My heart hammered as I looked at the envelope. Thick, official, sealed with a red sticker. Samantha strode up, eyes sharp behind her glasses. She nodded at Elliot, sizing him up, then whispered to me, "What's in there?" I shook my head, voice tight. "I have no idea. But he says it's for the judge. Only the judge." Samantha hesitated. "Logan, you understand, if this is a trick, we're done. If it's real, we have one shot. One." I nodded. I'd gambled everything already, my kids, my dignity, my last ounce of hope. There was nothing left to lose. Inside, the courthouse buzzed. The marble floors clicked under our shoes as we made our way through security. Amber was already there, dazzling in designer black, her lawyer flipping through files, her boyfriend lounging at the back, sunglasses hiding his eyes even indoors. Judge Price entered, gavel in hand. My knees almost buckled when he called us forward. Samantha leaned in, voice low and fierce, "Now or never." I stepped up, hands trembling as I passed the envelope to the bailiff. "For Judge Price." "From a confidential source," I managed to say, forcing myself to meet the judge's gaze. The judge eyed me, then the envelope, then Amber's team. "Mr. Carter, Mrs. Carter, approach." Amber's lawyer objected. We weren't notified of new evidence. Judge Price silenced her with a glare. He broke the seal. The courtroom fell to a hush. I stared at the floor, pulse roaring in my ears as he leafed through the contents. Samantha gripped my arm, whispering, "Breathe, Logan. Just breathe." The judge's brow furrowed, lips pressed thin. "These are serious allegations," he said at last. "If this is authentic, it could change everything." Amber's smile slipped. Her boyfriend shifted, pulling out his phone and snapping a quick photo of me and Elliot at the front. His thumb danced across the screen, sending a text. His eyes, ice-cold, promising trouble, never left me. Judge Price dismissed us for a recess, taking the envelope to his chambers. The hallway filled with whispers as I slumped onto a wooden bench, shaking. Samantha knelt beside me. "That was brave," she said quietly, "and reckless. We wait now. No calls, no emails, just wait." Elliot hovered near the exit, arms folded, watching Amber's boyfriend as he circled closer, snapping more photos, first of me, then of Elliot, then Samantha. "He's sending those to someone," Elliot murmured. "Stay sharp." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Why are you helping me?" Elliot's gaze was hard as stone. "Some debts are bigger than money. Your wife made enemies, Logan. She thinks she owns the game, but she doesn't know all the rules." I nodded, uncertainty swirling. "You're sure the judge will listen?" Elliot shrugged. "He has to. If he doesn't, there's no justice in this place. But you, Logan, you have to hold your ground, no matter what." Suddenly, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A picture. Me on the courthouse steps with Elliot, time stamped. A message followed. "Next time you won't see me coming. Stay out of it, loser." A cold weight settled in my stomach. I glanced up to see Amber's boyfriend still watching, grinning like a wolf with blood on his teeth. I slipped the phone into my pocket, pulse racing. One wrong move and I could lose everything. Not just the case, but my kids, my freedom, maybe even my life. But I had to see this through. The truth was finally on my side unless the devil got to it first. The courtroom was packed, every breath tense as I rose to hand Judge Price the thick envelope. My hands shook. Amber's eyes, painted sharp with panic, darted between me and the judge. For the first time, she looked afraid. Judge Price broke the seal, fanning out the documents, bank statements, forged signatures, secret transfers, and heat-damning surveillance footage stills. The room grew silent enough to hear my pulse. Amber's attorney scrambled, stammering objections. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. The judge's hand cut the air. Enough. Mrs. Carter, do you recognize these accounts? Amber blanched, her composure slipping. I don't know what that is, Samantha. My lawyer stepped forward, voice steady. There's a USB, Your Honor. Surveillance footage and wire transfer receipts from the plaintiff's account. Amber's jaw clenched. The room was riveted. Reporters scribbling, spectators holding their breath. Judge Price plugged in the USB. The bailiff angled the monitor so the bench could see. A grainy video played. Amber and her boyfriend hunched together in the living room, whispering, passing documents between them. The judge's face was stone. Proceedings are suspended, he barked. There will be a full investigation. Court will reconvene once these allegations are reviewed by authorities. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Amber shot up, eyes wild. This is a setup. He's lying. He's desperate. She shrieked, but the judge raised his gavel. Bailiff, remove both parties to separate quarters. As I was led out, I caught Amber's mother's gaze, cold, furious. Her father slumped in his seat, head in his hands. Samantha squeezed my shoulder, her voice a low whisper. You did it, Logan. Now let the system work. We waited in a side room. The courthouse clock ticked slow. Through the window, I watched Amber pacing, tearing at her hair. Her lawyer frantically made calls. 10 minutes later, the bailiff summoned us. Judge Price's chambers felt heavier now, as if the truth had sucked all the air out of the room. Judge Price's eyes bored through us. Given these materials, I'm reopening the case. I've also ordered Amber's parents to appear and provide sworn testimony. Amber's face went pale. My parents? They don't know anything, but the judge was unmoved. They are relevant to this court's understanding of your finances and any history of undisclosed assets or prior agreements. Amber's mother, regal and brittle, was ushered in first. She fixed her eyes on the judge, refusing to meet Amber's stare. The questioning was sharp, direct, her memory of Amber's first marriage, a prenup, a mysterious buyout years ago. The cracks started to show. Amber's father shuffled in, nervously twisting his hat in his hands. His testimony was even shakier. Did your daughter disclose all previous assets during this marriage? A long silence. Then, almost a whisper. Not exactly, Your Honor. There was a settlement. She made us promise not to talk about it. Judge Price's pen scratched across the paper. What settlement? Amber's voice was desperate now, rising in pitch. It has nothing to do with this. That was years ago. But the judge ignored her, pressing her father for details. Dates, dollar amounts, secret transfers, all tumbling out under oath. Every secret Amber thought she'd buried clawed its way to the surface. She glared at me, hatred and fear burning together in her eyes. Samantha leaned over, whispering, "This changes everything. If they hid assets before, it could void her claim to the mansion, the accounts, maybe even custody." Aditi, my chest tightened. Was this it? Had the truth finally cut through Amber's web of lies? Judge Price closed the file, voice heavy. We are now investigating allegations of marital fraud, asset concealment, and perjury. Amber sagged, lips trembling. For the first time, she looked like she might break. But I had a feeling. This was only the beginning. Some secrets would be bigger and more dangerous than anyone expected. The morning news was all Amber, her face on every screen, headlines screaming, "Millionaire wife exposed for fraud." For the first time, her mask was cracking in front of the world. I watched the chaos unfold from the courthouse window. Camera crews battled for a shot of Amber as she slunk from her car, sunglasses barely hiding her swollen eyes. The crowd, once sympathetic, now jeered. A reporter shouted, "Is it true about the offshore accounts, Amber? Did you lie about your assets?" Amber's lawyer looked like he hadn't slept in days. Inside, the courtroom was buzzing, phones vibrating, reporters elbowing for space. My phone exploded with messages from relatives who'd once ignored me. "Logan, is it true? We always believed you." Funny how quickly loyalty shifts when money's at stake. Judge Price took the bench, his expression grave. "We are here to address new evidence regarding financial fraud, perjury, and possible emotional abuse." Amber fidgeted, scanning the crowd for allies. Her parents, shaken after yesterday's testimony, sat far from her, her mother stone-faced, her father avoiding her gaze. My brother Miles sat beside me, squeezing my shoulder. "Hang on, Logan, this is your moment." The first witness was an accountant, Amber's own, now subpoenaed. He detailed years of tax evasion, unreported income, shell companies, offshore transfers. Each word landed like a blow. Amber's composure melted. She bit her lip, knuckles white. Then came the emails, dozens from Amber to her boyfriend, outlining their plan. Hide assets, frame me as unstable, win the mansion and custody. Every email was a knife twisting deeper. The court gasped at one. "Don't worry, babe, Logan's too naive to fight. He'll fold." Samantha stood, reading aloud from Amber's old journals. "He's weak. The kids are better off with me. I just have to get him out of the house." It wasn't just fraud. It was manipulation, gaslighting, erasing my role as a father, painting me as unfit. The judge's patience ran thin. "Mrs. Carter, these are serious allegations. Do you deny forging financial documents, hiding assets, and instructing others to provide false testimony?" "You." Amber's lips curled in desperation. "They're twisting everything. This is a witch hunt. Logan, tell them I'm a good mother." I stared back, steady. Good mothers don't teach their kids to lie. A wave of whispers swept the courtroom. Even Amber's closest friends shifted away, avoiding her eyes. Outside, the media storm intensified. Headlines blared, "Amber Carter faces prison." My phone buzzed with interview requests. Distant cousins crawled from the woodwork, offering apologies. My parents, who had sided with Amber out of fear, now reached out, awkwardly supportive. Amber's world was shrinking. Alone at her table, she looked less like the woman who once paraded her victory, and more like a lost child. Judge Price called a recess, the tension boiling over as everyone filed out. In the hallway, Amber cornered me. Her eyes were red, her voice a venomous whisper. "You think you've won? This isn't over, Logan. I swear you'll regret this." I didn't flinch. "The only thing I regret is trusting you for so long." She glared, her mask slipping entirely. "You don't know what I'm capable of." I stepped back, remembering Elliot's warning. "You're not the only one searching for the truth." My hands shook, but I stood tall. For once, Amber's threats didn't scare me. The truth was on my side. As she stormed off, a reporter's microphone caught her. "Amber, do you have anything to say to your children?" She spun, flashing a bitter smile. "Their father is a liar. He'll ruin them just like he ruined me." The crowd recoiled, whispers spreading. Her words were poison, but they didn't stick this time. People saw her now, really saw her. Inside, Samantha leaned in, voice hushed. "The DA is reviewing charges. Amber's boyfriend might flip on her. It's moving fast." Miles grinned, clapping me on the back. "You did it, man. She's finished." But all I could think about was Amber's last look, pure hatred, a warning. Somehow, I knew she wasn't done. The fight for my family, my name, wasn't over yet. As I left the courthouse, a black car idled at the curb. The window rolled down. Amber's boyfriend, eyes cold, motioned me over. He mouthed just one word, "Careful." For the first time all week, a chill crept up my spine. What else was Amber hiding? Jake's voice trembled as he took the stand. "I just want Mom and Dad to stop fighting." In that moment, the courtroom shrank to nothing but my kids and the truth that had nearly broken us. I'd always imagined the worst part of divorce was signing the final paper. I was wrong. The real agony was watching my children step into a world of adult battles, their childhood innocence torn apart by lies, betrayal, and courtroom drama. Maddie, barely 8, clung to the bailiff's hand as she climbed into the witness chair. Her feet dangled, too small to touch the ground. Judge Price offered her a gentle smile. "Don't be nervous, Maddie. Just tell the truth, okay?" Amber's lawyer launched right in, syrupy sweet. "Maddie, who do you want to live with?" Maddie's eyes darted between me and Amber. For a split second, I wanted to leap from my seat and shield her. But all I could do was watch, helpless. She whispered, "I just want everyone to stop yelling." The courtroom went silent, the air thick with shame. Amber's mask flickered, but she quickly recovered, squeezing out a single tear. The performance of a lifetime. Jake's turn. He squared his 10-year-old shoulders like a man twice his age. "Do you feel safe at home?" The lawyer pressed. He looked right at Amber. "Sometimes Mom says things about Dad that aren't true. She told me not to trust him." His voice wavered, but his eyes held steady. "I just want to play baseball again. I want us all to be happy." I swallowed the lump in my throat, fighting tears. How had it come to this, my own kids forced to pick sides in a war I never wanted? Judge Price leaned forward. "Jake, what do you think is best for you and Maddie?" Jake bit his lip. "I don't know, but sometimes I wish we could just go back. Before Mom started saying bad things about Dad, I miss the way things used to be." Amber stared daggers at him, her hands curling into claws. The whole court saw it. This wasn't about what was best for the kids anymore. It was about winning. My turn on the stand came next. Samantha squeezed my hand as I rose, legs heavy with dread. "Logan, you have to be honest." "For them." Judge Price's voice was kind but firm. "Mr. Carter, do you have anything to say regarding your children's testimony?" I glanced at Jake and Maddie, both watching with tear-streaked faces. My voice shook. "Your Honor, I just want what's best for my kids. I don't want revenge. I want peace. I want Jake to play baseball, Maddie to draw her pictures, and for them both to feel loved. No matter who they're with." I looked at Amber, really looked at her. The anger was gone. All I saw was a scared, desperate woman trying to hold on to a world built on lies. I almost pitied her. The judge scribbled notes, eyes darting between all of us. The gallery was tense. Amber's parents sat stone-faced, Miles watched with fists clenched, and Elliot lingered in the back, unreadable. The day dragged on with expert witnesses, therapist evaluations, even character letters. Every word cut deeper, every question a reminder of how much had been lost. When the lawyers finally rested, Judge Price straightened. "This decision is not taken lightly. The evidence against Mrs. Carter is serious, but the welfare of the children must come first. I will take 24 hours to consider my ruling. Court is adjourned." A collective sigh filled the room. Samantha hugged me. We did everything we could. As the room emptied, Jake slipped his hand into mine. "Will we be okay, Dad?" I knelt beside him, pulling Maddie close. "We're already okay, no matter what happens." But deep down, my heart twisted with fear. The fight for my children, the only thing that truly mattered, was far from over. As we walked out of the courthouse into the fading afternoon light, Amber lingered behind, whispering furiously into her phone. The battle lines had been drawn, but the war for my family was just beginning. Judge Price's decision would come tomorrow. I lay awake that night wondering, would truth finally be enough? Samantha burst through my brother's front door, her eyes wild. "Logan, you're not going to believe what I just found out." Amber tried to bribe the judge's clerk. My first reaction was disbelief, then anger. I stood up so fast I nearly knocked over the coffee table. "She what?" Samantha shoved a printout across the table, a series of encrypted text messages and a grainy photo. "That's Amber's number, and that's her," handing a white envelope to a woman outside the courthouse. "The timestamp is from yesterday, right before the hearing." My hands shook as I picked up the evidence. The sick, gnawing feeling in my gut twisted tighter. All the months of fighting, the courtroom theatrics, Amber's crocodile tears. Was this her last card? Miles hovered by the window, arms crossed, watching the street like we were waiting for a storm. "This is big, Logan, but it's dangerous. People go to jail for this kind of thing." I ran my fingers through my hair. "We have to tell the judge. If Amber's willing to cheat now, who knows what she's already done?" Samantha shook her head. "We can't just walk in and accuse her. Not unless we're certain this clerk is in on it. We need more proof. Otherwise, Amber will spin it as another attack and it could blow back on us." I slumped onto the old couch, my mind racing. Was this what my life had become? Spying, paranoia, always waiting for the next betrayal? All I wanted was a fair chance to be a father. Now, the only way to save my kids might be to burn the last bridge I had to normalcy. Miles spoke softly. "You're playing with fire, man. What if she's got people watching us? What if this gets violent?" Samantha's phone vibrated, an unknown number. She read the message, her face going pale. "What is it?" I asked, heart thumping. She handed me the phone. The message was short. Meet at the old law library tonight. Come alone. Miles stared at us. That's a trap. Samantha's jaw tightened. Or it's the only way to get the truth. Whoever sent this knows something. Maybe it's the clerk, maybe it's someone else on the inside, but if we ignore it, we lose our only lead. I paced the room, the old floorboards creaking under my feet. So what's the move? We go, get whatever they have, and take it straight to Judge Price? Samantha nodded. If this tip is legit, it's the last piece we need. If we can prove Amber tried to bribe a court official, it's over for her. Miles shot me a look. Just be careful, bro. People get desperate when they're cornered. Amber's not above anything at this point. I stuffed the printouts into my jacket, feeling the weight of every risk. The city outside was already turning dusky blue, the sky heavy with the promise of rain. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, play it safe, let the system do its work. But the image of my kids, Jake's uncertain smile, Maddie's trembling hands kept me moving forward. Samantha gathered her files. We'll go together. I don't trust anyone right now, not even the walls. Miles hesitated, then handed me a battered old flashlight. Just in case. And if anything feels off, you get out of there. Promise? I nodded. I promise. The night closed in as we drove across town, headlights glinting off wet pavement. The law library loomed at the corner of an empty block, its stone columns casting long shadows. The air was thick with tension, every sound amplified by nerves and fear. We parked, checked our phones, no new messages. Samantha locked eyes with me. Whatever happens, Logan, don't back down. Your kids need you to fight this last battle. I took a shaky breath and stepped out into the night, my heart pounding, ready to gamble everything for the truth. As we approached the library steps, a hooded figure stepped from the shadows, holding a folder thick with secrets. You want the truth? The voice whispered. It's all in here, but you'd better be ready for what comes next. Under the flicker of ancient chandeliers in the deserted law library, I watched Samantha shake hands with the stranger, a woman whose nervous eyes darted from shadow to shadow. I gripped the edge of a mahogany table, knowing the next words could shatter everything. Samantha's voice was calm but urgent. You said you have proof Amber set Logan up. Show us. The whistleblower, Melissa, finally introduced herself, pulled a manila folder from her tote. Her hands trembled, but her tone was steady. I used to be Amber's friend. She made me do things. Lie, cover for her. I thought it was just messy divorce stuff. But after what she did to Logan and those kids, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. She slid the folder across to Samantha. Inside, printed emails, bank records, digital photos, and a notebook filled with Amber's looping script. Samantha's eyes widened as she leafed through the damning evidence. Amber and her boyfriend plotting bank transfers, planting evidence to make Logan look unstable, even scripting fake texts from the kids to sway the court. I felt sick, reading my name in Amber's writing. Logan will snap if I push the right buttons. If we play this right, the judge will hand me everything. Miles will back me up. He owes me. Melissa shook her head, voice shaking. I was part of her plan. I helped set you up for that big fight in January, the one she used to get the restraining order. She even paid off the therapist to say Maddie was afraid of you. I'm so sorry. Samantha's knuckles turned white around her pen. Why come forward now? Melissa wiped her eyes. Amber threatened me too. But I have a daughter. I couldn't let another kid get hurt because of her lies. The gravity of what Melissa handed us hit all at once. This wasn't just courtroom drama. This was criminal. My anger simmered, cold and sharp. Amber had stolen my home, poisoned my kids against me, and nearly destroyed my reputation, all by design. Samantha snapped photos of everything. This is enough for the DA to press charges. With this, the custody verdict could change overnight. Logan, you're getting your life back. For the first time in months, I let myself hope. I can't thank you enough, I said to Melissa. She wouldn't meet my eyes, but she managed a sad smile. Just take care of your kids, and don't trust anyone Amber's been close to. She's scared. She might do something drastic. As we packed up, Samantha's phone buzzed, a frantic message from Miles. Amber's at your brother's place. She's taking the kids. Get here, now. My heart stopped. All the nights I dreamed of holding my children, All the months Amber had played puppet master, it was about to come crashing down. We sprinted out into the wet, echoing streets. Tires screeched as Samantha floored the gas, adrenaline blurring the city lights. At my brother's house, the driveway was empty, my brother frantic. Jake's backpack dumped on the porch, Maddie's doll in the grass. She just showed up, said it was an emergency, Miles panted. The kids barely had time to grab their shoes. She's gone, Logan. I'm sorry, I didn't know. A cold dread settled over me. Samantha was already on the phone with the police, reading out Amber's license plate and the make of her SUV. Inside the house, Maddie's voicemail played on the kitchen phone. Daddy, Mommy's crying. She says we have to leave. I don't want to go. I clenched my fists, fury and terror mixing in my veins. Amber was desperate, cornered, exposed, and now on the run. As I raced back outside, tires screeching in the distance, one thing was clear. The final battle for my kids, and for the truth, was about to begin. Police lights flashed against the glass doors of the airport terminal as Amber was led away in handcuffs, mascara streaking her cheeks, Jake and Maddie clinging to the officer's hands. I'd never seen my children so scared, or myself so desperate to hold them. The airport security office buzzed with voices, cops, social workers, and airport staff. I dropped to my knees as Maddie hurled herself into my arms, sobbing. Jake, older, tried to be brave, but his chin quivered as he wrapped his arms around my neck. I thought she'd never let us see you again, Daddy, Maddie whispered. I'm here now, I choked, pressing my face into their hair. Nobody's taking you away. Amber glared at me from across the room, rage and fear tangled on her face. This isn't over, Logan. You've ruined everything. A detective stepped between us. Ma'am, you need to calm down. She jerked away, but the handcuffs stayed. Samantha arrived, out of breath but triumphant, waving a stack of legal papers. We got it. Emergency custody. Judge Price signed the order himself. The kids are staying with you, Logan, tonight. And until this goes to trial, you're their legal guardian. My heart hammered. Relief, gratitude, disbelief tumbling together. Thank you for everything. The next morning, court was packed. The press, the family, a crowd of faces hungry for drama. Amber sat in the defendant's chair, eyes hollow. Her lawyer, red-faced, whispered frantically. Judge Price's voice was iron. In light of the evidence, bank fraud, parental alienation, and attempted abduction, this court has no choice but to grant sole custody to Mr. Carter. Mrs. Carter, you are remanded into custody pending sentencing. A gasp swept the gallery. Amber's father buried his face in his hands. Her mother began to cry. The empire Amber had built on lies had finally collapsed. Samantha delivered the closing argument, her voice steady and strong. Your Honor, for too long, Logan Carter was denied not only his children but his dignity. Thanks to the bravery of whistleblowers and the perseverance of this father, justice is being restored. Judge Price nodded. Mr. Carter, you are to be commended, not just for fighting for your children, but for holding on to your integrity in the face of tremendous injustice. The court apologizes for what you endured. For a moment, the world stood still. I held Jake's and Maddie's hands as the gavel came down, sealing Amber's fate and restoring my own. After court, the press surged forward. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed. I shielded my kids and pushed through, searching for Elliot, the stranger who'd handed me the first clue, whose battered briefcase had saved us. But he was gone. No sign in the corridor, no familiar hat in the crowd. Only a single envelope tucked into my suit pocket, with my name in neat handwriting. Thank you for believing in the truth. You never owed me anything. Go live your life, E. Samantha read it over my shoulder and smiled softly. Sometimes the real heroes are the ones who never stick around for the spotlight. Outside the courthouse, the sunlight felt sharper, brighter. Jake clutched my sleeve. What happens now, Dad? I squeezed his shoulder. We go home. We start over. Together. As we walked to the car, Maddie asked, Will Elliot ever come back? I looked back at the courthouse, the chaos fading behind us, and realized some mysteries were meant to stay unsolved. But the biggest chapter of our lives was still unwritten. The moving van rumbled away, leaving a trail of dust behind. I stood in the driveway of our new, modest home, hand in hand with Jake and Maddie, the sun shining down on our little patch of hope. For the first time in months, my chest didn't ache. This was peace in its simplest form, and boxes were everywhere, stacked high in the hallway. Jake sprinted inside, racing Maddie to call dibs on bedrooms. Their laughter echoed against bare walls, walls that were ours, not bought with stolen money or held hostage by lies. The living room was small, but the couch fit perfectly. I sat there, closing my eyes and listening to my kids argue over closet space. I remembered a time, not long ago, when silence was all I heard, when loss filled every corner of my life. Now, even chaos felt like a gift. That evening, we ate pizza, straight from the box, cross-legged on the living room floor. Maddie fed crust to the cat we'd rescued from the shelter on the way over. Jake asked if he could hang his baseball posters. I told him, "This is your home. We all get a say now." After dinner, the three of us started unpacking. I found a faded family photo, one of the few things Amber hadn't claimed. I set it on the mantel and realized forgiveness wasn't just for her, it was for me. The anger that had driven me for so long began to fade, replaced by something lighter. I had spent months chasing justice, dreaming of revenge. But now, looking at my children, I realized the real victory was starting over. Later, as dusk painted the sky pink and gold, Jake joined me on the porch. He leaned against my shoulder, quiet for a while. "Are you happy now, Dad?" I looked at the street lamp flickering to life and nodded. "Yeah, buddy. I think I finally am." Inside, Maddie was drawing pictures of our new house. "Can we plant flowers?" she asked. "And can we paint my room purple?" I smiled. "We can do anything we want. Forgiveness isn't easy. Not for Amber, not for my past, and not for the mistakes I made along the way. But I chose to let go. Not for her, but for us. Because sometimes the only way to move forward is to set yourself free." We all gathered on the back steps as the first stars appeared. The house was still, but it felt full of hope, of laughter, of new beginnings. I pulled the battered briefcase from under my bed, empty now, but still a reminder. Sometimes the keys to your freedom arrive in the unlikeliest briefcase. The true mansion is the one you build in your heart. Jake squeezed my hand. Maddie snuggled into my side. We watched the night settle over our new home. A family healed, not perfect, but whole. And if you're listening, maybe you know what it's like to lose everything and find something better in the ashes. Subscribe for more stories where justice finds its way home.